The F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET has what you need to win. Bet $100, get $100 at WynnBET.com or download the WynnBET app and start winning today. State restrictions apply. We're also brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Final Four Watch Party. This Saturday, sweat out your bets and win prizes with Ryan, Sean, and Colby over on youtube.com/sportsgamblingpodcast. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. It just feels like forever when there's a week off, but we are back. It is the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. And like I said, Cody, we had a week off between Saudi Arabia and Australia. And I don't know why F1 does this to us, but is it absence make the heart grow fonder or what? I don't even know.
I guess I do. I mean, obviously we're, so used to the NASCAR side of things where every week there's a race, like there's one weekend off the entire season. And so we're used to that repetitiveness. And with F1, they get everything going, the blood flowing. You get these, the full week of practices and qualifyings at a race. Then you got to wait 2 weeks. And it's like, oh man, just such a letdown. I don't like the wait, but always worth the wait, of course.
Well, I know they said they were going to talk about adding more races to the schedule upcoming in the next couple of seasons. But I will say this. I mean, when you're flying it's one thing from going from state to state, right? Inside the United States. That's okay. I mean, we kind of get that. But if you're going from country to country, I could only assume that every single week would be an absolute grind. So there does have to be some sort of buffer period in between. I wouldn't even begin to imagine the jet lag between all these countries.
Not only are you traveling countries, they're traveling continents. I mean, they're in Australia this week. So like it is quite the time shift is completely different. I mean, it's like for us, we get the nice last race was so nice. It was like noon here, 10 o'clock on the West Coast there for you. And so that was real nice. Now we get do we get same? No, this is 12 a.m. Yeah, so the midnight race is gonna be a late night. Actually, that's not bad for you. That's prime time, right? 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, sure. I could watch a late night race.
There you go.
Race.
Everything that goes into transporting all of this stuff from across continents, across the ocean, and everything. So it is obviously a lot, and there's a lot more technical aspect to it and all that. So. Luckily, we have NASCAR to fill in the gaps, but this week's going to be a fun one. I mean, we've got all three NASCAR series in action. Again, IndyCar's in action, and F1's back in action. I love races. I love weekends where we have just loaded down with races. Makes it exciting.
It makes it exciting, and a lot of watching cars go around and around and around and around. So, and then, of course, mix in with my football, and it's just almost like there's just no ending to sports ever. I don't have to ever not be without sports. And
exactly. You got your Giants shirt on there. MLB kicks off this weekend.
Right. It does. Opening day is today, right? I believe.
Yeah, it's soon. I don't know when it is exactly, but
listen,
I like MLB, but I'm not as quite into it as the racing side of things.
To say, truth be told, I mean, look, you see that this is from 2010. And by the way, we are actually adding this video to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast YouTube page. So head over there if you would like to watch this video. This will be our first time putting out this video on YouTube. So hopefully you guys appreciate it, like it. If it goes over well, we'll continue to put it on that channel. Maybe they'll promote this show to its own channel if it does even better. So definitely keep an eye out on that one. So yeah, this is a YouTube first for the F1 Gambling Podcast.
Yeah, Rod used to be super against YouTube. Now he doesn't want to do a show without being his beautiful being on YouTube. So even though we're still technically audio only, we decided we've got the NASCAR platform. We can prop this over there. And if you've not listened to the F1 Gambling podcast before, you're stumbling on it from the NASCAR YouTube. Welcome. We're available obviously on podcast form as well. Or maybe you can just keep watching on here. And excited to cash some more bets. And we had a pretty good weekend last week where Rod hit the big one, of course, 6-1 hitting Checo to win that race. Look at that. 2 races into the season, Rod, and Max Verstappen already hasn't won all of them.
Isn't that amazing to me? And honestly, this race could be another one where that happens too, and we'll definitely talk about that. We've starting to see some cracks in the armor, but listen, that's good for the sport. And as we've seen in NASCAR, having millions of different winners always makes it more fun because you never know from week to week who's going to do it. So just like Cody said, we are in Australia for the Australian Grand Prix. This is a 5.278 kilometer track. So just under, actually, what was it? A 5K is 3 miles. So just under, or just over 3 miles, actually. 58 laps around this. The lap record is owned by Charles Leclerc at 1 minute 20 seconds, 0.260. This actually has more of a feel of kind of a NASCAR-esque road track. It's not necessarily a whole lot of tight turns. It's not necessarily an oval by any stretch of the imagination, but it just feels a lot more like a gentle curving road or gentle curving track rather than all of the sharp corners that we saw even in Coda for NASCAR last week. And like we'll see again with the United States Grand Prix later on in the season. But this is a nice, gentle track. There are a couple of DRS zones, and actually we'll talk about DRS here later on too. There was an interesting article about that, talking about Red Bull and DRS, but there's a couple of good long stretches of DRS zones. So I'm telling you right now, this should be a very, very quick race and a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And yeah, it's a different layout than we've kind of seen last race rather, was the very tight track close together, a lot of tight turns. This one a lot more wide open and curving more so than such the tight turns. There is still some of those, of course, but going to be a fun one, going to be exciting. And yeah, I'm ready to go.
1996 was the first time that F1 took to this track. They were in the Adelaide park last time when they bid 1995 when they did this, and then in 1996 they moved to Melbourne. So again, this has been a long tradition of racing here in the in Down Underville in Australia. So all right, Cody, should we get to some bets? I feel like we should get to some bets.
Let's jump into it. I'm ready.
All right, let's take a break real quick and get to those bets when we come back from the other side of the break. But before we do, as we always do, let's push that button. Let's tell you about WynnBET. WynnBET is the official online sportsbook of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. WynnBET is now active in Massachusetts and a ton of other states. Be on the lookout now for WynnBET Win Hour each Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. During WynnBET Win Hour, marquee games of the week will have better odds on WynnBET, giving you a larger payout opportunity. And March Madness is here. So many ways to bet on the big dance. Sign up today. Receive a special offer. Bet $100. Get $100. Limited to state availability. And of course, for our DGens only, if you hit the biggest long shot parlay of the week, you're going to get a $1,000 free credit. So much to choose from, and all you have to do is head over to wynnbet.com or download the WynnBET app. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at wynnbet.com. Must be 21 or older, present in the state where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you or somebody who has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. You're looking to hang out with Sean and Ryan at Stadium Swim and watch the biggest golf tournament in the world? Well, you can win a 3-night stay at Circle Las Vegas to hang with the guys. The contest is completely free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/golf party. And if you don't win the contest, you're still going to get a discount on the room using promo code SGP15. Final Four watch party is going virtual. Hang out with the guys on the YouTube channel for the entire Saturday of Final Four action. Live bets, prize giveaways, and so much more. Subscribe to youtube.com/sportsgamblingpodcast and tune in on Saturday. All right. And now that the whole YouTube world found out how bad my math is, trying to figure out what 5 kilometers is versus, I know that it's not, what it is. I'm bad at math. Thank you very much.
I got nothing for you. So I don't know the metric system that well, or whatever system that is.
Well, the only reason that I know what a 5K is because I've run 5Ks. Like I know that it's 3.1 miles.
Well, I've also run 5Ks. It's been a while, but I still don't remember how far they are.
All right. Well, again, I mean, we talk about this every single week, and I know we're going to talk about it some more, but listen, we'll preface this with Max Verstappen is obviously the best driver in this circuit right now. He's the hottest guy. It's hard to bet, especially if this is your first time listening to this show, if you stumble across it off of YouTube, we'll tell you right off the bat that Max Verstappen is the dominant force in this track. And it's very difficult sometimes to handicap a winner because Max Verstappen's odds, and now they've gotten even worse. I mean, now we're looking at what, minus 325 is what I saw him at. Cody,
Yeah.
Did you see him at anything better?
Yeah, I think I might have saw a minus 275, but it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous.
Yeah. To bet him to win, you're basically laying 3 times what you would end up winning. So it almost doesn't feel like a good bet. So what we tend to do is give you other options to bet on either him in a way that's going to make you more money and not cost you as much to win it, or we just bet against it and hope for the best. So we'll do a lot of that and a little bit more. We'll give you some head-to-heads. Or not head-to-heads rather, but we'll give you some other optional bets to place in, hoping to fill the card out and win some money. But yeah, I mean, the process of betting F1, especially if you're a NASCAR gambler, is much different than NASCAR.
Definitely. And I mean, yeah, you just you go into it assuming that Max is going to win. He's going to lead a majority, of the laps. He's going to win by a good margin. But then you can build your card around that. And like last race, I went in on Max and missed it, but you were right there with Checo as an insurance policy, 6-1. Guess what? He wins. That helps, at least helps save the day on the Max bets. But you can build in some of these other bets for both scenarios, right? This is likely to happen if Max does come out and win this race in dominating fashion, or maybe Max will do this on top of winning. And then there's the other things too, where this is a hedge against if Max doesn't win, or if Max has problems. I mean, Max didn't finish this race at this track last season. So he's not perfect all the time. We saw last week, right? They had engine troubles. Yeah, he ends up being the best driver, works his way through the field, but he still couldn't catch Checo at the end. And was having issues at the end, right? He was complaining about vibrations and other things. He wasn't happy with it. So there's, even though Max is the dominating force, of course, plenty of ways to bet on this. And the books have given us more options this week, I think, also, as far as other things to bet on throughout the field. And I've got some bets that are going to be where you don't even have to watch Max run away. You can watch the battle, the action inside of the field. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. Going to be a fun race. And again, if you're tired, if you're an F1 fan and you're tired of just watching Max dominate, that's what betting gives you, this extra built in, watching the race within the race. So let's do it, Rod.
Yep. When you watch down the board, you have a lot more fun than watching Max run away with another race. So, let's start out. Let's start with these little head-to-head, or not head-to-heads.
So we're doing this earlier in the week than normal, changing it up a little, but full odds pretty much are out here. I haven't seen any head-to-heads yet, but there is some group betting, which is not something I've seen before for F1. Something we get a lot in NASCAR now. Maybe that's translated over to F1. So great to see. We like it. And then it's been the opposite. We've gotten like pole bets and other stuff from F1 that they have always done over to the NASCAR side of things. So glad to see the books sharing the fun stuff. So I'm going to start with group number 2 here. It's Lando Norris at plus 400, Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg, Valtteri Bottas. I struggle with his name here. Guan Yu, is that how you say it?
Oh, Guan Yu.
Guan Yu, yes. And Oscar Piastri at plus 550 rounds it out there. So I am, again, this is going to be kind of your, these are the guys racing to get into the points, right? So mid-pack here and who can do it. And so I'm going to take Valtteri Bottas at plus 500. So you got Lando at the top here. The way that McLaren has started the season out, I don't trust them at all. I don't want any part of that. And really, I mean, you could kind of just look through this group and see who you like, and you could even pick two of these guys to lay a little bit of money on. Whereas the favorite in this group is even at plus 400. So you're getting pretty decent odds here. Kevin Magnussen, probably the one who scares me the most, just because we know what he can do, but it's inconsistent, right? Some weeks he finishes good, some weeks he doesn't. Nico Hulkenberg, again, it's kind of the same thing there. He's getting his feet back under him as he gets back into the series here. Valtteri, he finished 8th place at Bahrain to start the season, and then contact, I think it was the first lap last week, and then it was struggle bus from him for there on out. He finished a lap down in 18th place as the last car running, but you didn't really get to see what maybe he had for it. So I'm going to lean on the fact that he started the season with a strong 8th place finish, 8th place run. He's had some speed in the car. Zhou Guanyu, he was the fastest car in Bahrain, but again, or had the fastest lap rather. But again, the results aren't always there. And then Piastri, I'm big on him going forward, but with the McLaren problems we've seen so far, again, same thing with Lando. I think that you can't trust them as much. So Valtteri being the veteran guy, most veteran guy, I guess, in this group, I feel like the odds are pretty good here for him at plus 5. Was it plus? I lost it already. Plus 500. So I'm going to take that. Again, this gives you a nice way to hit, even if you don't want to bet Max at minus 275 or whatever, and you can still hit a 5-1 winner in the F1 race, and it doesn't have to be anything to do with anyone near the front of the race. So fun way to do it, fun way to bet on it here, and so I like this one.
And let's not forget, he won this race in 2019. I mean, he was in a Mercedes, so it's not as if it's the same, it's apples to apples. But at the same time, I mean, a guy that has won the race here before, I give him a pretty strong chance to finish above all these other guys. And you talked about, I mean, Nico Hulkenberg, you love the story, but he just hasn't been able to come out and really produce the way he's supposed to be. You said Zhou Guanyu was in that one. That poor guy, I don't know what his luck is. I mean, he'll luck into a points finish more often than not, but I mean, it's either a points finish or nothing for him, like out of the race. So I definitely feel bad for him. So yeah, I mean, I love Valtteri in this instance too. Bottas is a hell of a driver, and again, like I said, he won this race a couple of years ago. In fact, 2020 and 2021, there was no Australia on the schedule. It was 2019, and then they went back again last season. So for them, it's definitely not long ago that he actually ended up winning. Like I said, in better equipment, but still.
Right. Yeah.
You can win the race.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. You still have to do it. I mean, how many guys have we seen in these Red Bulls, and it's like, they can't do it quite as well. And then you get guys like Max in here, the way Checo's been performing this year. And so, yeah, a lot to do with the equipment, of course, but these experienced guys can still do better than the lesser equipment that they're in these days.
Yeah. And again, in his Alfa Romeo, he did finish 8th place here. So definitely strong for Valtteri Bottas. All right. Well, I'm going to bet on Max, but not pay a whole ton of juice. And I'm going to go with Max as the winner of practice 1. I'm seeing this at minus 115. I don't know if they've updated it yet as far as fastest speed in practice 1. Yep, I'm definitely just seeing the minus 115. So I like this price. Again, you're not paying the juice for him to win outright, but you are still getting him to win something. And listen, Red Bull has been the fastest in most of these practices this season so far. Last season at Australia, they weren't. It was Ferrari, but Ferrari has had their troubles this year for whatever reason. They do not unload fast this year. They have not unloaded fast this year. And it has been Red Bull, and it's been either Sergio or it's been Max. And last week we saw it was Max, basically wire to wire, And so for me, I think Max is going to try to come out, especially reason being that I'm picking this one now is that he suffered last week, right? He had so many problems. Cody was just talking about the fact that he had so many problems last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, rather. He's had 2 weeks to sit on a second place finish. You don't think that he's going to come out in practice one and throw those flying laps down and try to prove that he's still the fastest guy on the track? He's got a lot to prove when he unloads for first practice. And I think this is going to be the spot where he chooses to come out and put all of those ridiculous frustrations from the weekend before last behind him. And again, like I said, you're only paying minus 115 for this. And all he's got to do is be the fastest car in practice. He's done that before, and he did that a lot last season. So I think the odds are telling me that this is a very good bet to take him as the winner of practice one. And shoot, man, again, practice one is the only odds that are up right now. As the week progresses, you'll get practice two, you'll get practice three. And you might, if he comes out and is the fastest in practice one, you might want to just keep doubling down on it for practice two and practice three, because that dude is going to be fast all weekend if he's fast in practice one.
I will let you know when I find a bad bet on Max Verstappen for the counter argument, Rod, because there's just not one. It's Max Verstappen. We know Red Bull is fast. I mean, and with some of the issues we've seen from the other guys early, right? Like Mercedes has had some issues. Ferrari has had some issues. Aston Martin has stepped it up and kind of become that second best, at least so far, throughout the first two events of the season. And so that just kind of gaps Red Bull even more at the top of the list. And so, again, this is a way to get in on Max, get in on his speed, get in on his talent without paying the ridiculous price. And you cash this one nice and early in the weekend, and you can parlay that right back in and hit one of these other bets. So, yeah, again, this is a good way to get on Max without paying up as much. I'm going to go with another way to get in on Max, basically, but other people could do this for you as well. Winning margin over 8.5 seconds at plus 100. I really, really like this one. So if Max is Max of the normal times, right, he's likely going to just run away with it and leave everyone in the dust, barring a late safety car or something. You're likely going to hit this. And for whatever reason, this is the plus. I don't know why the over is the plus side money of things, or plus money side of things, rather. But yeah, you're getting this at plus 100. The under is minus 133. So I like taking the plus side anyways, but I would have taken the over even if it wasn't the plus money side of things. You go back to the first race at Bahrain. Max had an 11.9 second lead over Checo in that one. And then it was 38.6 seconds back to Alonso in third place. You go to last week, Checo wins obviously by 5.3 seconds. But then it was 20.7 seconds back to Alonso in third again. So these Red Bulls are obviously way better and way faster than anyone else. So if it gets to the point where it is Max just running away with it, we already saw him leave Checo in the dust in Bahrain. Last week, if Max would have started on the pole, he would have probably lapped the field as the pace he was going. I mean, he ended up starting, where did he start? 18th or something? It was pretty far back there after his qualifying troubles. So he worked his way through the field, got to second. I mean, nobody else was even close to him. So, and then if Max does wreck out early or Max has an issue, Checo could easily put this distance between everybody else, right? He did it with Alonso in both of these races. Or, things get crazy. You get somebody else up there. If it ends up being Charles Leclerc, if it ends up being Lewis, anybody else can do this as well. But for the most likely scenarios where it's a Red Bull winning this race, I feel like the over 8 seconds or over 8.5 seconds is definitely the best bet on this. And again, plus money, whenever you can find a plus money bet that you like in F1 is even better, because it's not as easy to bet plus money bets on the F1 side of things. So I'm really liking this one.
Well, okay, look back. The last time this was run last season, the winning margin was 20 seconds between Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez. That is a clutch. You got to go all the way. You actually have to go all the way back pretty far to find one in which the winning was not over 8.5. In fact, 2019, Bottas, we talked about, won over Lewis Hamilton by 20 seconds. In 2018, it was Sebastian Vettel that beat Lewis Hamilton by 5 seconds. That was the one race in which it didn't happen between this last time and 2016. Sebastian Vettel won in Australia over Lewis Hamilton by 9 seconds in 2017. And then in 2016, it was Nico Rosberg that beat Lewis Hamilton by 8 seconds. So 2016, since then, there's only been one time in which the winning margin, and we talked a lot about why. I mean, this track is kind of an expansive track as far as the curves. There's a lot of separation that you can use in this. And again, with this DRS that they've been talking about with Red Bull, this DRS advantage, whatever they found, whatever extra bit of oomph they found in DRS, that's been able to sort of get them faster on some of these instances. And that's why I think in practice 1, 2, they're going to be faster, because they can use DRS in practice, and whatever advantage they've found, they're definitely going to be using it. So yeah, I think this is definitely a good setup for that, for a winning margin to be over 8 seconds. All right, my next bet is for Alpine to have both of their drivers in the points. This one's kind of a tough sell with Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, but they've actually been able to. They did it last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, in Saudi Arabia, where Gasly finished in 9th and Ocon finished in 8th. But more than that, they've actually done this a couple of times in Australia. Now, granted, it wasn't Gasly, because Gasly was in an AlphaTauri ride back then, but he did finish in 9th place in that one. Alpine finished in 7th, with Ocon finishing there in 7th. So both of those drivers finished in the points. Granted, they were both on different teams the last time they were out in Australia, but they managed to do it. So I like their chances in doing it as well. And then, of course, if you look back at 2019, I did see Gasly just finished just outside of the points in that one at 11th, but he was in Red Bull in that instance. And then, of course, Ocon was not in that race. So I think for both of these guys, like I said, last week they did it, and Alpine hasn't been looking that bad. I mean, they actually, out of the rest of the field that's not Ferrari, Red Bull, or Mercedes, or even Aston Martin now, if you want to throw that in. I mean, they're better than the Haas's, they're better than the AlphaTauris, they're better than the Alfa Romeos. I think Alpine's got a couple of good ones, and now with Gasly in there, it just makes sense that he can finish inside the points. And all you're asking for is him to finish better than 10 drivers. And I just gave you 8 drivers that he can finish in front of. So yeah, give me Alpine to have both drivers in the points. This is at plus 110. So Cody was talking about plus money for these bets. I think this is a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, I like it. And Gasly's been in the top 10 in both races, and Ocon was in the top 10 last week, and then did not finish the race at Bahrain. He had issues earlier on there. So yeah, I like this one as well. Again, at plus money, you're getting guys that have proven they can do it already this season, and I think can do it again. And they're both solid drivers, and Alpine seems to be off to a fairly decent start to the season as well. I found another way to bet on Max here. I'm going to do 2 different guys to do the fastest lap. I'm going to take Max at plus 125, and then I'm going to hedge a little bit with Charles Leclerc at plus 600. Max, we saw it. We've seen it, right? Obviously, all this continual talk. You could beat the same drum about Max nonstop, but didn't get the fastest lap in Bahrain because he didn't really need to. He just was coasting out front. And so that is why I think you hedge it with someone else, because even if Max dominates, he's not necessarily going to grab the fastest lap, but being out front and being the dominant car could lead him into the fastest lap. You saw it last week. He was worried about who had the fastest lap. The team said, don't worry about it. And he said, fuck you. And he said, I'm going to go do the fastest lap right now. And he went and did the fastest lap on command whenever the hell he wanted to. So the fact that he can do that will give me the faith that he could do that at plus 125. I'm also going to take Charles Leclerc here, 6-1. I know it's hard to trust Ferrari. And, I don't know that I would bet on Ferrari in a head-to-head. I don't know that I would bet on them to finish the podium or anything like that, just because of the unreliability so far. But if you're going to toss out just scoring the fastest lap, if you're going to toss out race winner, something like that, I think it's a different case, because that's not something where they necessarily, if things fall right, that can happen. You don't have to rely on them to have to put together that full thing. So Charles Leclerc won this race last year, also had the fastest lap. We know he can do it. We know Ferraris are generally fast. They've struggled a little bit to start the season off, but maybe they get things figured out. Maybe he hits the fastest lap before he has an issue, right? So that's always a hedge you can make there. So Charles Leclerc or Max rather at plus 125, and then Leclerc at plus 600 will be my fastest lap bets this week.
You're talking about two of the fastest drivers from last season. It definitely is not out of the realm of possibility. And of course, Leclerc won here already and did it quickly. So, and Max Verstappen always fast and on command too. You're right. As they said, we're not worried about that right now, Max. And Max like, yeah, but I am.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, they wanted to give one to Checo, and Max is like, nah, no, thank you, I'll take it.
Do you think they'd learn by now? They talked to him last season about this whole thing. They're like, come on, man. Like, go ahead.
He doesn't give two shits about Checo, right? He is here for himself only. He's the best guy in the series. He's the best guy on the team. You take care of him. You do what he wants.
He doesn't care about Cal Naughton Jr. He's all about Ricky Bobby.
I'm surprised he wasn't asking him to have Checo slow down last week so he could catch him.
Slow down, please. All we're asking for you to do is engage the slingshot. That's what we want. All right, I'm going to turn to Mercedes. Look, their woes are well documented right now. This season, they have not had the best season to start off with, and Lewis Hamilton is frustrated, but still, as frustrated as Lewis Hamilton is, he still has 2 fifth-place finishes. It's funny, though. You look at his starts, both 7th places. You look at his finishes, both 5th places. It's just, it's uncanny how consistent sometimes these guys are. And you want to talk about consistent. Lewis Hamilton is one of the most consistent on this track. He broke a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pole starts in Melbourne last season when he started 5th from the grid. That dude, he started 6 races from the pole position from 2014 to 2019. That is amazing. Now, he only won 1 of those races, but he finished 2nd in 4 of them. Only to finish 4th last year. What a rough run for him to finish off the podium in Australia. But again, 2nd place finishes in all of the races before that. In 14 starts, he has only missed the podium 5 times. 5 times has he missed the podium. And in a couple of those where I talked about the 4th place finish last season, that was one of those. And then a 5th place finish in 2013 and a 6th place finish in 2010. So we're not talking about like him missing huge. When he misses huge, he misses huge. He had a 20 place finish. He was disqualified in 2009, and he had engine problems in 2014 to finish 19th and 20th in those 2 races. But when he's on the track, when he's finishing the race, dude is sniffing the podium. And, it's just, I know it's been a frustrating start for him this year, but frustrating for Lewis Hamilton is getting 5th place finishes. Last season, he had 3 straight 2nd place finishes before the last race, before Abu Dhabi, where he had those hydraulic problems when he probably could have finished up in the podium in that race as well. So look, I really believe that this is going to get turned around. Mercedes has been sniffing around, right? They're not going to win a race, I don't think, this week. And it may be a few weeks before they come to realization that they can win something. But at the very least, I think Lewis Hamilton has enough to put himself back on the podium in Australia and start a pretty decent run of good finishes good finishes. I don't even know what to call a good finish in F1 anymore. Anyways, a podium finish for Hamilton.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at the number you're getting this at, this is perfect because obviously Mercedes hasn't had the speed just yet. But we know Lewis is one of the greatest drivers of all time, right? So, and the fact that he's finished 5th both weeks so far to start the season means he's right there. He's not far off. Alonso has made the podium both times. Maybe if he slips up a little bit, if either Red Bull has an issue, we see accidents happen. Of course, guys, things happen that this could fall into place. He's keeping himself so far in 5th place. So if he can be right there, he's not that far outside the podium. I think he can make it happen. And getting it at 4-1, I feel like is pretty good value for Lewis. So I like it.
Me too. Like I said, just you're asking him to just get 3rd place. That's all you want out of Lewis Hamilton, and you're going to get 4-1 for 3rd place. That's really damn good odds, I think, for a guy that can get it done.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
Love it. Okay. Well, we're gotta pick some winners for this race, but we'll take a quick break before we do. and then we'll come back and give you our winners. Well, okay, we'll give you how to bet on the win for this race. When we come back. I think we already know who we think is going to win, but we'll figure out another way to make it creative when we come back.
Exactly.
But let's tell you about Underdog Fantasy, because we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy continues their March Madness column pick'em, college pick'em. It's a great way to get in on the action, especially if your bracket has already been busted. Play Underdog Fantasy. It's got your favorite college basketball player props and great NBA and NHL daily games. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. If you're watching us now on YouTube, thank you very much. First offering of F1 on YouTube. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you want us to stay on there. Maybe we'll get our own feed and then some. So continue to support the YouTube efforts. We'll get some fancy branding again and make it all happen for you and make it all comfortable. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. More NASCAR content on the way as well. So yeah, thanks for hanging with us on YouTube. Let it continue. All right, so
all right, well, Max Verstappen wins, and have a good night. Oh,
he's coming. Follow me on Twitter.
No, just kidding.
All right, how are we going to bet on these race winners, Cody? What creative ways are we going to get on this?
Yeah, so I think we learned the valuable lesson last week, right? I just went all in on Max Verstappen. I paid up the juice, and you only pay when you lose, so I did pay the juice this time. I think that maybe if you do that throughout the whole season, it ends up being positive over the course of the season, but maybe not, right? Because obviously he's proved that other people can beat him. Things can go wrong. I don't know anybody can beat him, but things can go wrong enough that he doesn't win. And so if you want to go bet Max, I did just find a minus 250. Again, it's hefty, but I'm not going to tell you not to do it just because it's out there. But if you do hedge like we did last week, hit a couple of winners and still, made it out of there good. But I think we're both going to avoid that. I found the race winner without Max Verstappen lines because that just, give him first, okay? And then who will finish second to Max basically is this bet. And so it's pretty, even Checo is minus 225 at the top of this, which is just shows you how much better Red Bull is than everyone else. But I feel like there is some value down the board. I like Charles Leclerc for this at 11-1. You're getting him at 11-1, which last season you wouldn't have even got him 11-1 most places to win a race. So I feel like you're getting good value there, and this takes Max out of the scenario. You don't have to worry about where Max finishes. It's just, who's the best finisher besides Max, basically. And so I think that Shaw can do it. I mean, we saw last season he was clearly the 1B to Max's 1A. Again, Ferrari's had some issues to start the season. You can't always rely on them, but I feel like at 11-1, this is a good enough bet that it's worth taking that gamble. If they have issues, you're going to be like, well, there's the Ferrari we know and love, right? They shot themselves in the foot. Something wrong happened. It happens so much. But if it doesn't, I think that Shaw could have a great race, could be up there, could beat out Perez. And, again, this is early in the week, so he comes out and he qualifies second to Max. You're not going to get a number like this later in the week because they're going to adjust accordingly. So get on this one early, I think. So I like that for, again, a way to bet the winner without Max. That's what the bet is, race winner without Max Verstappen. So it's a fun way to still have skin in the game, even if Max does run away with things. And then also I was going to toss a little bit on Shaw at 22-1, but somebody else beat me to the punch there. Spoiler alert. So I will throw out Carlos Sainz as well. 40-1. I mean, a Ferrari at 40-1 just seems like it's ridiculous. I'm not saying that Sainz is going to win this race, but I'm saying that he can. It's possible. Again, if there happens to be, things that happen, guys have issues, electrical problems, mechanical problems, get caught up in wrecks. Sainz a good enough driver on a good enough team. He getting himself up at the front at 40-1. It's worth a small sprinkle for me, just because it seems like crazy good value. Again, I'm not all over Ferrari this weekend by any means. I just feel like you're getting good enough value in some of these bets that you can bet on Ferrari and make money potentially if things go correctly, because they don't always screw it all up. It seems like they do just because we talk about it so much. But things go smoothly. They have good races. And I feel like you could make money with either of these guys. And at the value that they're at, being in Ferraris, I feel like you have to kind of take a shot at that and just maybe pray for chaos.
Well, Sainz has been the best Ferrari finisher in both races this season.
True.
So it's, Leclerc has had his issues and he's been frustrated. You've heard him on the radio asking why in the hell he can't keep up with his teammate when he knows he's a better driver than his teammate. So that's what I love about these radio I mean, I'm not one to, especially like in the XFL where they catch them right after a touchdown and they're always like, all right, tell us about this or intercept. I don't really like it when they're in their face the whole time, but something about being on a race radio makes it so much better because it's not manufactured and these guys are literally showing their emotion on their sleeve like as it's
well. And I mean, like the XFL one, they know they're talking to the TV and everything. Like in race, these guys are they're not worried about TV or who's listening. Like they're just talking to their team and they're in he's literally doing, however many kilometers per hour down the track as he's talking, as he's letting his frustrations go. I mean, we see these heart rate monitors and stuff sometimes on these guys. Like it is through the roof and everything. The blood is flowing. And then one other point on Sainz too, like you said, best finishing Ferrari both races. He's been fourth in both races. So it's been the two Red Bulls. Okay, the Red Bulls have an issue. That takes those two guys out. Then the only other guy that's been better than him has been Alonso. It's been the top five's in the same in both races, surprisingly, other than flipping Verstappen and Perez around 1-2 in either race. But Sainz has been that next best guy. So for the guy that's finished fourth in two consecutive races to open the season, now he's 40-1 to win. It just, I get that Max obviously is so much better, but that's why you play the game, right, Rod? That's why they race the race, because it doesn't always work out that way. So I feel like there's incredible value there at 40-1.
I concur, and you had to change it up. I'll tell everybody why in just a second. I found the other creative way to do it, and that's just the field. I mean, listen, the field is at plus 210. So everybody that could beat Max Verstappen is at plus 210. And I, honestly, if you're trying to pinpoint, and that's the difficult part, because like Cody said, Sergio Perez is still minus 200, minus 190 something to win the race.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit less to win the race. He's plus 400, so you're still getting.
Oh, Perez is plus 450 to win the race. Never mind.
Yeah, it was minus 2 whatever without Max.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, so Perez is at plus 450 to win this race, and while you could probably still have some fun with that, who knows what can happen at that point. So I'm gonna just take the field and let it ride at plus 210 and see what happens.
You cashed this one last week too. Again, even though Max fought all the way up to second, you're still getting all 19 other guys in the field.
Yeah, and that definitely is a good enough bet, especially at plus 210. You'll double up and then some, right? So I like that. And then Charles Leclerc. I mean, in fact, if the field continues to be this good, just continue to bet the field every week. Put something on the field, hedge on the field, and be good with that. But I'm going to take Charles Leclerc, just like Cody was talking about. Look, exactly the scenario that Cody laid out happened last year at Australia, right? Max had issues, didn't even finish the race. Charles Leclerc ended up beating Sergio Perez by like 20 seconds. It wasn't even close. The only reason that he's at 22-1 right now and not anything closer like Sergio is the fact that he hasn't been able to put it together this season for whatever reason. Now, it's harder to bounce back in F1 than it is in NASCAR. It's harder to put together a better week the next week, especially when you've had a week off. But if any team can do it, and if anybody can do it, it's Ferrari, it's Charles Leclerc. It's a track that he won on last season. He's gonna want to come out and do well. And I think if he's able to put together a good qualifying run, if he's able to start within the first 2 rows even, I think this is a good enough opportunity for him to try to catapult himself somewhere in the top. And then again, if he's running second, right, where he could be running second ahead of Perez for most of the race, and all of a sudden Max has a bad vibration or something happens and Max falls out, Charles Leclerc wins 22-1. Not a bad little get-go there. And again, it's going to take a lot for him to be able to do this. Not saying it's going to be easy, and definitely the odds reflect that, but I like this just for the fact that it's a driver that's won on this track. Max has yet to win on this track. Not to say that he can't, but he just hasn't. So,
I'm pretty sure that was what we said at Bahrain too, but
yeah, right. Well, yeah, that's true. But yeah, again, I like 22-1 at Charles Leclerc because I mean I love 40-1 with Sainz as well, but I just feel like Charles Leclerc has a lot more to prove, a lot like Lewis Hamilton. I think I'm going with the storylines this week, I guess, without even realizing it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the field is a great bet. I mean, don't go load up on it because obviously Max is that good. But just like last week, you hit that one and then you doubled down because you sprinkled something on somebody else. And it was Checo last week. It was 6-1 and you hit him. And so you can do that. And I mean, there are so many possibilities in here. Max wins, then, you don't cash any of these. But if Max doesn't, you cash the field bet. You could hit Charles Leclerc to win. Even if Max wins, you could hit Shaw to be the race winner without him, right? And then you could double up if Shaw wins and be the race winner without Max at 11-1, and then 22-1 to win the race. You got Sainz in there at 40-1. So even though yes, we think that Max will probably win, there is plenty of other ways to bet this and find very, very good value on the board. And then, like we said, there was some built-in ones where if Max just comes out and dominates the whole weekend, you can cash with those as well. So yeah, I feel like we got it pretty good this week as far as a good mixture of all the different scenarios that could possibly play out and finding a way to cash it in multiple different versions of how this race turns out.
Again, this is a sport where you have to get creative with your bets, and you have to be able to figure out how to how to just make it all work for you. I will say, here is your reminder that the fastest pit stop for Red Bull is actually at plus 105.
Ooh, plus money.
Week. You're getting plus money they haven't had it yet because it just hasn't happened for them, but they were the fastest last season all together. I think this might be a punch through week for them. So
look at Rod sneaking in a bonus bet.
I just had to. I mean, I told you every week we have to tell you what the fastest pit stop is, right? And that's Red Bull at plus 105. I like that one a lot. So, all right, get out pen and paper. We're going to go over the bets for you for this Australian Grand Prix weekend. Cody started you out with the winner of Group 2 being Valtteri Bottas at plus 500. I like this one. There's a lot of names in there that I think he can finish in front of, so this is a very good bet. I'm giving you Max Verstappen is the winner of Practice 1 at minus 115. Cody's telling you that whoever wins this race is going to win it by more than 8.5 seconds at plus 100. I'm telling you both Alpine drivers are going to be in the points at plus 110. Cody's saying that Max is going to have the fastest lap at plus 125, or Leclerc will do the same at plus 600. I'm saying Hamilton will finally put himself on the podium this week at plus 400. Cody's saying that the race winner without Max is going to be Charles Leclerc at 11-1. And then, of course, throw something on Carlos Sainz to win at plus 4,000. I am giving you the field. I'm telling you anybody else can beat Max Verstappen at plus 210, and then telling you that maybe, just maybe, Charles Leclerc can figure it out and maybe win on his own at 22-1. There you have it, Cody. All of the bets for the Australian Grand Prix this weekend. Again, remember, practice starts on Friday, so make sure you check in if you're going to place those bets beforehand and make those bets because, yeah, once they're there, they're gone. Once they're on the track, they're gone.
Yeah, and then, yeah, just a reminder also that race is, what is it? Did I say midnight? Why can't I not find it? Here we go. Australia. Yes, it's midnight Central Time. So, 1 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, and then you can adjust accordingly on Saturday night / Sunday morning, depending on where you are. So don't forget, don't wake up, or plan to wake up early on Sunday and be like, okay, I gotta get my F1 stuff in because it's gonna be over by then. So get it in early. Don't forget your fantasy lineups, DFS lineups, all that fun stuff before you go to bed on Saturday, or make plans to stay up and watch the race, of course.
Always. Late night F1 is the best.
Yes. Actually, I like that better than having to wake up early anyways. I'm more of a night owl than a morning guy anyways.
It's a lot of fun. So, all right, let's wrap things up. Cody, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
Yep. Follow me on Twitter at Husker_Zeeb. And then, yeah, again, if you're listening to this on the podcast feed and YouTube is your preferred way to listen to stuff, watch stuff, we're over there as well on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast YouTube channel for now, obviously. But yeah, check it out over there.
Yep. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's in between media, talking on the back road this Thursday as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let's have some fun. Let's cash some tickets in this F1 Australian Grand Prix, shall we? We'll be back next week to break it all down and give you another set of bets for the next F1 race. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.